Friday morning, Prime Minister Mark Carney held a news conference to talk about the Canadian economy. He tweeted that he had, quote, shared my plan to set out on a new path for Canada, end quote. Well, not really. It was less a plan than a mild restatement of some broad ideas from the Liberal campaign document. However, two things he talked about, and one he didn't, caught my eye. His biggest priority, he says, is clarifying Canada's relationship with the United States, which has been a chaotic mess since Donald Trump became president on January 20th. As Carney said, he has, quote, stressed repeatedly our old relationship based on steadily increasing integration is over. The questions now are how our nations will cooperate in the future, end quote. He has a meeting planned with Trump for Tuesday. The U.S. president, Carney observed, respects strength. The Prime Minister said that his focus will be immediate trade pressures, as well as the, quote, broader future economic and security relationship between our two sovereign nations. He promised to fight for the best deal possible and said that, quote, in parallel, we will strengthen our relationships with the reliable trading partners and allies, end quote. The second thing that caught my eye is Carney recalling Parliament for May 26th. He says that will be the start of his government's plan to create a new Canadian economy. He didn't provide details, but said details will become forthcoming in the near future.
As I stressed on election night, I am committed to working with others, governing as a team in Cabinet and caucus, and working constructively across parties in Parliament, working in real partnership with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples, and bringing together labor, business, and civil society to advance the nation-building investments that will transform our economy. In the coming weeks, I will unveil more of our plans to engage with Canadians as we embark on the biggest transformation of our economy since the end of the Second World War. This will be an incredibly exciting time as we take control of our economic destiny to create a new Canadian economy that works for everyone.
Here's the absent thing from Carney's presser: how he plans to forge a real partnership, as he says, with the provinces and their premiers. A Friday column from Jared Wesley, political science professor at the University of Alberta, titled Carney's Federalism Dilemma, the Prime Minister Must Choose Avoidance or Engagement, nicely frames the issue confronting our new Prime Minister. Carney faces two choices, argues Wesley. Quote, retreat into the comfort of minority government maintenance, or take a bold step forward, restructuring how we do federalism and intergovernmental relations in this country. If the PM takes the comfortable, safe route, he invites deepening resentment, particularly in Alberta, whose leaders are now openly discussing cessation from Confederation. And, as I frequently point out, it's not just the government driving Alberta's resentment. The powerful oil industry, with its deep pockets to fund fractious political movements and activist libertarian fake news online, is desperately promoting its agenda of more oil pipelines to Tidewater and more LNG plants on the West Coast. The other choice is to revamp what Wesley calls intergovernmental collaboration and renewed engagement. He argues that Canada's existing intergovernmental system has outlived its usefulness. Now, I like this quote. The real crisis isn't national unity. It's institutional fragility and forgotten norms. We need to bolster both, end quote. In other words, the institutions that hold Canada together and the political culture that long united Canadians needs to be reformed. More of the same old approach isn't going to work. Wesley's observation is directly related to Carney's big plans to re-engineer Canada's economy. If the Prime Minister can't forge a consensus with the premiers, especially combative Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, then his grand plans for a new Canadian economy will come to naught. As we move forward, watch for two things. One, the particulars of Carney's economic plan as he rolls it out after May 26th. Two, if he does the hard work of revamping Confederation to ensure that all regions and all provinces are pulling together in the traces. If number two doesn't happen, number one is almost guaranteed to fail. At this turbulent time in our history, Canada can't afford to fail.